Hello and welcome to this Cisco Press live lesson on Introduction to BGP and Inter-AS Routing. I'm Jeff Doyle, author of the Cisco Press book Routing TCP/IP, and I'll be your instructor for this course. I'd like to start with a quick overview of our objectives. In this course, you'll learn how BGP differs from IGPs, Interior Gateway Protocols. You'll learn the commands and procedures you need to configure and monitor BGP. You'll learn, particularly the further we get into this course, different options for configuring BGP and its policies. BGP itself is not a complicated protocol or a difficult protocol to learn, but more than any other IP routing protocol, it's designed to support routing policies. Policies that can often become very complex. You'll learn about the unique tools called path attributes that are available to you to create policies and how to use those tools. And because BGP is the routing protocol of the internet, configurations can grow very large and hard to manage. You'll learn a number of tools and techniques for controlling large BGP configurations, some unique to iOS, and some just a part of the BGP protocol specifications. There are a number of assumptions that I'm making about your experience going into this course. First, you need an understanding of IP routing concepts and an understanding of IPv4 addressing. We'll be, of course, using IPv4 addresses extensively in the configuration demonstrations, and I'll be assuming that you understand them. Experience with basic Cisco iOS usage, for example, the difference between exec mode and configuration mode or enabled mode, how to enter and exit configuration mode, how iOS configurations are organized, is all useful, although not completely necessary. You should be able to follow what I'm demonstrating, even if you have not worked with iOS before. And finally, you should have a basic understanding of IP IGPs and how they're configured, particularly OSPF, EIGRP, and static routes. In the demonstrations, you'll encounter these protocols without much explanation of them. This course is organized in 3 major parts and a total of 21 lessons. The first part covers the essential concepts of BGP and BGP configuration. In Lesson 1, we'll cover BGP concepts such as autonomous systems and external gateway protocols. Lesson 2 shows you how to configure an external BGP or eBGP session. Lesson 3 discusses internal BGP or iBGP and the unique rules around that flavor of BGP. In Lesson 4, you'll learn about a variation of eBGP called multi-hop eBGP and the circumstances in which it's used. Lesson 5 shows you how to enter address prefixes into BGP. If you're used to working with IGPs, you'll encounter some interesting new ideas in this lesson. In Lesson 6, you'll learn to configure aggregate routes in BGP. Part 2 is all about routing policies, the heart of practical BGP configuration. Lesson 7 will kick things off with policy concepts and the BGP decision process. Lesson 8 shows you how to filter address prefixes. Lesson 9 continues filtering concepts, but applies them to autonomous system paths rather than to individual address prefixes. Lesson 10 covers the workhorse of iOS policy configuration, the route map. You've probably used route maps before with other IP routing protocols, but you'll find that they are essential to BGP policy. And then we'll look at some ways to manipulate default BGP route choices, beginning with the local pref attribute, and then the med attribute, and finally, a practice called AS-path prepending. The last part of the course deals with managing large BGP configurations. You'll learn ways to manage the configurations itself, ways to manage BGP performance on a single router, and ways to manage BGP topologies across large networks. As with the first lesson in the preceding two parts, Lesson 14 introduces the basic concepts on which the rest of this part of the course is based. In Lesson 15, you'll see how to manage policy changes. Lesson 16 introduces a BGP route attribute called communities that allows you to more easily apply policies to large numbers of routes. Lesson 17 covers an older concept of configuration control called peer groups and a newer, more flexible means of configuration control called session and policy templates. In Lesson 18, you'll learn about private autonomous system numbers, a concept and usage similar to RFC 1918 private addresses. Lesson 19 introduces route reflectors, an essential tool for managing large BGP networks. Another large network tool covered in Lesson 20 is confederations. And finally, in Lesson 21, we'll look at a method of controlling instabilities in BGP networks called route dampening. Are you ready? Let's get started.